Hello and welcome back to the piano school. Today we're on lesson 7 and it's called the music box. So as usual, you can get this music on my website, robharveymusic.com. Join the school, you get it for free. Not only that, but there's also a backing track. Written by my brother. I think it sounds amazing. I'm really liking it. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun for you to learn. So what are the key differences that we're going to have to learn today compared to the previous piece, which was Home? Well, the music box is in C minor. We know this key before. We know it's got E flats, A flats and B flats as written at the start of the music. We've also got a key signature called 6/8. 6/8 means 6 quavers to every bar. The 8 represents quaver, the 6 represents how many of that particular quaver. So we're going to be counting this piece as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in so doing, if you have a look at the tempo marking, it says 60, but instead of a crotchet equals 60, it says dotted crotchet equals 60, which if we translate that, a dotted crotchet is worth 3 quavers. Therefore, every beat of the metronome, we've got to fit 3 quavers in. So if this piece is at 60 BPM, roughly like this, I assume it's just a ticking clock. It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think I slowed down my tapping, but you can see you fit 3 beats into every tap, and 2 taps make a bar. It's just a different way of thinking, very slightly, but it gives a great feel to the piece. On top of that, if you have a look below bar 1, you can see this really weird thing called ped. And in fact, it looks like lead, but it actually says ped and it means pedal, which is one of these. Well, ideally something that's not this light and flimsy, but I've got used to this. This is what's called a sustain pedal. When I press down a sustain pedal, I can play a note and it rings out after I press that note, which means that if I play a chord across many notes on the piano, it rings really nicely, even if I'm just using one hand. And as I release it, it cancels out that sustain. Now, every real acoustic piano will have one of these attached to the bottom. You'll see it in the middle. There's normally like a set of 2 or 3 pedals. The one on the right is always the sustain pedal. So if you've got a real piano at home, the one on the right is the one you're going to be going for. And you want to make sure your heel is against the floor as you tap down on that pedal. If you drive a car, same concept as using an accelerator or a clutch. You're technically meant to keep your heel on the floor so your toes have control. But if you have a digital piano, you'll find on the back row, there's a few sockets. You might see, what have I got? You might see a USB socket, you might see a headphone socket, and then there's also damper pedal. So it might be called a damper pedal, it might be called a sustain pedal, but in any case, this is something that you need to get. You may have heard the sustain pedal can often be overused. It's very easy to just hold it down and you've got a nice mush of notes which just sounds really pleasant. But if you hold it down too long, it does sound muddy. So we do have to learn some control. But what I've done, in case you don't know where to find these pedals, is I've gone onto Amazon and found the 2 that I've bought in the past. And I've put a link in the description. Those links are affiliate links, so if you purchase that product, I will get some commission for sending you there. However, it doesn't cost you any more. In any case, this piece really needs a sustain pedal. Doesn't require it, but it would be nice if you had it. And finally, just having a look at what I've got here, the only things we now need to watch out for that are new are the jumping of the right hand and the jumping of the left hand. They both jump in this piece. So let's get to it. Enough talking. Line 1 sounds like this. That's line 1. Really sounds quite full and engaging. You don't need a backing track with these pieces anymore. We're getting to a really good standard. Key things to watch out for. The left hand has got to remain even continuously. And at the end of bar 2, you're going to want to lift up that pedal and put it straight back down again, preferably without any gap being heard. You can blend a pedal lifting up and down while the chord's being held, or while a particular note is being held. So if you have a look at the notes at the end of the second bar, G in the left hand, F in the right hand, you could very quickly lift up the pedal and put it back down again while you play those notes, or as you play those notes, so that no gap is heard and you're just flowing into the next part very easily. You know all of the notes in the right hand, no problem, so I'm not going to go over them. Just be aware that dotted crotchets now last 3 quavers, which is technically half a bar, and that can sometimes mess your mind up just a little bit, so you've got to switch your brain over. In the left hand, we've got an E flat in the first 2 bars, and the second 2 bars, we've got the A flat. All of that due to the key signature at the start of the piece, those 3 flats. Line 2, I'm not going to go over and play it, however, I will tell you that in bar 5, we've got a natural sign, so watch out for that. It means that you're raising the flat up to its original position, which would have been an A. Sort of James Bond chord, so bar 1 would be G, bar 3 is A flat, bar 5 is A. And then you go back again from bar 7. James Bond chords, but completely different piece, so don't judge me for copying. And then in that line we've got a word that says simil. Simil means play as similar, or play similarly. So the reason why I put that there is to represent, right, you've got the pedal markings. It tells you when to put the pedal down, where you see the word ped, and then where that line goes up, that's where you stop the pedal. But I don't want to keep on writing that throughout the whole piece because it gets quite messy. So what you've learned from those first 2 lines is that the pedal should be down every 2 bars and lifted up again. Every 2 bars and lifted up again. So do that for the rest of the piece. That's what simil means. Right, line 3. The right hand repeats exactly what we did in line 1, but an octave higher. That's a big jump you're going to have to make. There's no smooth transition, it's just get it straight up there. That's line 4. Almost forgot the right hand. And as usual, there are dynamics in this piece of music, however, leave them till the end. They can be implemented after you've learned all of the notes and the melody. Get that down first because that's the essential part, and then you can add in the dynamics afterwards. So that's the first page. Lines 1 and 2 have the same melody as 3 and 4, just the melody is knocked an octave higher, the left hand remains the same. Right, where are we now? Page 2. Yeah, we've got 3 pages in this piece. I've got to define what page we're on. Okay, so we're on line 5. This is the main change of the piece. We've got sort of section 1 on page 1, section 2 on page 2, and section 3, which is the same as section 1 on page 3. Confusing, but to be honest, you'll hear exactly how it goes. And I've also changed up the way I'm labeling my sections. I was starting to write it like if you had section A at the start and a section A at the end, I'd put 2 A's in there, but that's very confusing when writing an article, so I'm just going to go through the alphabet. So we've played section A, which was lines 1 and 2. Section B, I'm defining it as that because we've got an octave change in lines 3 and 4. It makes it easier for you to understand if you read my article at my website, robharveymusic.com, and therefore on page 2 we've got section C. This is where our left hand jumps up to a new position. Watch out for those flats again. And the right hand also moves to a unique position and has some unique patterns too. So in fact, I'm just going to play the right hand. In line 5, we've got A flat in the right hand with our 3rd finger. Then a G, then an F. 3rd finger over the top to get to the E flat as written. Repeat the E flat with the same finger, and now our hand has shifted because we use that 3rd finger over the top. We're now back with our thumb on C, so play the D and then the C at the end of that line. So I'll go through that again. 3rd finger on A flat, working down the notes to our thumb. 3rd finger over the top to E flat. Repeat the E flat, now our hand's in position to do D, C. All because we did the correct finger. So watch out for any finger positions I've written in this piece. They are to help you, I promise. The left hand just repeats the F minor chord. Down to C minor. That jump would be worth practicing. Go F, C. Ooh. Apparently I need to practice it myself. You could try and learn this piece without looking at your fingers, but it's a bit of a challenge. So if you need to look, feel free. Just don't do it too much. And if you don't know what those chords are, take a look at my music theory. I've put a link in the description. They tell you about all the triads, the majors, the minors, the diminished, the augmented, so you're not confused. But let's put both hands together. Repeat for line 6. Almost. You don't need to do the crossover, you've got some higher notes. Line 7, repeat of line 5. Apart from, we've got a D, so we're on bar 28 at the moment, section D. We've got D in the right hand at the same time as a G in the left. Right on the upbeat to bar 29. And then back to this pattern for bar 8. So now I'll go through that once more. Now I'm pretty sure what the lines are. We've got line 5 with the crossover, line 6 without the crossover, but very similar. Line 7 with a crossover, upbeat on the D into bar 29, cool. Watch for the dynamics there. We've got forte throughout section C and throughout half of D. Then from bar 29 we've got a D crescendo, which means to slowly get quieter until we're at around mezzo piano, which is medium quiet by the end of bar 29, 30, 31, 32. Right, section E, page 3, is the same as we had in section A. Section F is the same as section B, both sections from page 1. The only thing to watch out for is in bar 48, you've got some descending notes. We've got an E flat D C, which we haven't done yet. They just appear out of nowhere to lead in to the last chord in bar 49. We've got C in the right hand, C minor in the left hand. Our little finger of our right hand jumps up to the C, and our left hand jumps down to the octave Cs below. The dots above and below in bar 50 represent staccato, they represent bouncy. And apart from anything else, they should be loud, forte. It's the end of a piece, it's a little bit of a we're done sort of outro. Right, so admittedly I did whiz through this one compared to other pieces. I think by this point you should be in a fairly good place to understand the majority of things that are going on. I'm just going to highlight stuff that you should pick up on from sort of this point forwards. When you're playing this piece, especially as it's 3 pages, they sound stupid, but double check what page numbers you've got and make sure they're in the correct order. Otherwise, things are going to be a little bit swapped around and it's going to sound a little bit weird. On top of that, just because you're transitioning from a page to a page doesn't mean that there should be any gaps still. It should always be fluid and continuous. I realise it's a bit of a pain having 3 pages, and some stands actually can't fit them on there. So what you can do is you can get some tape or get a bit of card, cut out a piece of card, and suddenly you've got a longer music stand, and or use the tape on the pieces of paper, and that's sort of rigid enough to keep them all in place even if they are trailing off the ends. So I should probably play you what this piece sounds like. Nerve-wracking. Genuinely, 3 pages trying to get it perfect. I got all the way to, what was it, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I got to line 12, about 5 bars from the end. Made a mistake, had to restart the whole thing. You never saw it, but it wound me up to no end. Few things as I play it that I should probably mention about. If you have a look at the crescendo in bar 2, page 1, we've got the crescendo across the D, E flat and an F. So it's going to get louder, but then we're dropping it immediately back to piano. So every time you do those quavers for D, E flat, F, it's got to get louder and then drop back to quiet. This happens quite a few times, even with your hand up an octave. You can see in section B we've got mezzo forte, which means averagely loud, but make sure you're still expanding on those crescendos in bars 10 and 14, and also I guess 12, because it's still going to get louder, but it's just going to drop back to mezzo forte instead of piano. Section C is nice and easy because it is just forte all the way through, but be careful of the decrescendo in the second line of section D, bar 29. Sections E and F, you've just got to watch out for dynamics in the same way you did section A and B. And finally, we've got bar 50 with the forte to just finish the piece. Make sure it's nice and crisp and staccato on that last note. It's quite a lot to take in, but if you need to revise some more, go to my article at robharveymusic.com and you will find all the information that you need on top of what I've already told you today. So, stay motivated, keep practicing, and I will see you in lesson 8. See you then.